On July 16, 1945, the deserts of New Mexico were torn apart by a new sun. As Robert Oppenheimer watched the first atomic bomb detonate, he famously recalled a line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." It is a chilling quote, but there is a part of the story that is often left out. 7 years later, a student asks Dr. Oppenheimer if the explosion at Alamogordo was the first atomic bomb ever detonated. Oppenheimer paused. He looked down, and then he said, "Yes, in modern times." In modern times, what did the father of the atomic bomb know that we do not? Did he know that the fire of the gods was not a new discovery, but a rediscovery? We are told that the atomic age began 80 years ago. We believe that before us, humanity fought only with bronze and iron and stone. But scattered across the earth, buried in the strata of forgotten cities, and burned into the very glass of the desert, are anomalies that shattered this timeline. We have found ruins that are not just destroyed, but radioactive. We have found stones fused together by heat that no wood fire could ever produce. And we have found texts thousands of years old that describe the physics of a nuclear blast with terrifying medical precision. Are these the scars of a lost history? Did a civilization just as advanced as our own burn itself from the face of the earth 4,000 years ago? Today on Zero Point Lore, we are investigating the impossible evidence. These are the 5 signs of a prehistoric atomic apocalypse. Our investigation begins in the Indus Valley of modern-day Pakistan, the city of Mohenjo-Daro. Built around 2500 BC, it was a masterpiece of urban planning. But locals have another name for it, the Hill of the Dead. When archaeologists first excavated this site in the 1920s, they found a crime scene frozen in time. They found skeletons not buried in graves, but lying in the streets. Men, women, and children. Some were holding hands. They had been struck down instantly. There were no signs of sword cuts, no signs of battle, no signs of being trampled by an army. Scavengers had not touched the bodies. They just fell. But the mystery goes deeper. Decades later, Soviet scholars analyzed these remains. They found something impossible. The skeletons were radioactive. Some of them registered radioactivity levels 50 times higher than the natural background radiation, comparable to the bodies found in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And then there is the rock itself. Scattered throughout the site, researchers found evidence of vitrification. Bricks and pottery melted and fused together. To turn stone into glass requires a temperature of over 2,000 degrees Celsius. A wood fire burns at 600 degrees. A volcano burns at 1,000. What source of heat in the Bronze Age could generate 2,000 degrees instantly? But the smoking gun is buried deeper. In certain areas of the excavation, beneath the street level, archaeologists reportedly found a layer of green radioactive glass. It is identical structurally and chemically to trinitite, the glass found at the Nevada test sites after a nuclear blast melts the desert sand. Mohenjo-Daro was not destroyed by a plague. It was not destroyed by a flood. The evidence suggests it was vaporized. If Mohenjo-Daro is the crime scene, then the ancient texts of India are the witness testimony. The Mahabharata is an epic poem written thousands of years ago. Historians call it myth, but listen to the description of a weapon called the Brahmastra. The text reads, "A single projectile charged with all the power of the universe, an incandescent column of smoke and flame, as bright as 10,000 suns, rose in all its splendor." It continues, "It was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death, which reduced to ashes the entire race of the Rishnis and the Andakas." But it is the aftermath that chills the blood of modern scientists. The text describes the survivors. It says their hair and nails fell out, their skin turned white, food supplies were poisoned, birds turned white and fell from the sky. Soldiers threw off their armor and jumped into the river to wash themselves, trying to escape an invisible fire. Hair loss, nail loss, contaminated water, the desperate need to wash. These are not the symptoms of fire. These are the clinical symptoms of acute radiation poisoning. How did an ancient poet, writing 3,000 years before the discovery of the atom, describe radiation sickness perfectly, unless he had seen it? We travel now to the great sand sea of the Libyan desert. Here, scattered over hundreds of square kilometers, is a beautiful and terrifying anomaly. Pieces of canary yellow glass, pure silica, lying on the surface of the sand. This is Libyan desert glass. It is the purest natural silica glass on Earth. To create it, you need to melt the desert. You need a temperature, again, of over 2,000 degrees Celsius. The official scientific explanation is a meteorite impact. But there is a problem, a 0-point fracture in the theory. A meteorite impact that generates that much heat leaves a crater, a massive hole in the ground. Researchers have searched this area with satellite radar for decades. There is no crater, no impact debris, no signs of a collision. So, how do you melt the desert without touching it? There is only one mechanism we know of, an airburst, a nuclear detonation occurring 1 or 2 miles above the ground. The thermal pulse hits the sand like a hammer of light, melting it instantly into glass, but leaving no crater behind. We did this in New Mexico. We did this in Russia. Who or what did it in Libya 29 million years ago? The anomaly is not just in the desert, it is in the highlands of Scotland. Here, we find the vitrified forts, roughly 60 ancient fortifications built from massive blocks of granite and basalt. But the walls are not held together by mortar, they are fused. The stones have been melted, turned into a solid glassy mass. Granite melts at 1,200 degrees Celsius, but to melt a wall 10 feet thick, you do not just need high heat, you need sustained heat. You would need to keep that wall in a blast furnace for days. Archaeologists have tried to replicate this. They piled wood and kindling against stone walls and burned them. It failed. The rock merely blackened. It did not melt. The official story suggests these were ritual burnings, but the physics do not add up. What kind of fire, possessed by Iron Age tribes, could turn a granite fortress into a river of glass? Or was this the target of a weapon that burned hotter than the sun? Our final piece of evidence takes us deep underground to the Oklo uranium mines in Gabon, West Africa. In 1972, French physicists analyzing the uranium ore noticed something wrong. The samples were depleted. They were missing a specific isotope, uranium-235. The isotope used to make nuclear bombs. The levels were exactly what you would find inside a used nuclear fuel rod. Scientists investigated, and they found the impossible. Buried in the rock was a nuclear reactor, a fully functioning, self-sustaining fission reactor that had operated for 500,000 years. The date of this reactor? 2 billion years ago. Science calls this a natural nuclear reactor. They claim that by a 1 in a trillion roll of the cosmic dice, groundwater filtered into the uranium deposits acted as a neutron moderator and triggered a chain reaction that remained stable for 500,000 years. It is the safe explanation, but consider the odds. Our best modern engineers struggle to build reactors that don't melt down in a few decades. Yet we are expected to believe that nature, by accident, built a reactor that ran perfectly for 500 millennia. Or is Oklo the spent fuel dump, the radioactive waste facility of a civilization that existed before the dinosaurs? The green glass of Mohenjo-Daro, the melted forts of Scotland, the medical symptoms in the Mahabharata. Separately, they are anomalies. Together, they are a terrifying pattern. In our previous investigation of the Silurian hypothesis, we asked if an industrial civilization could vanish without a trace. The answer was yes, but perhaps they did leave a trace. Perhaps the trace is radiation. The ancient nuclear war theory is not just about the past, it is a warning. It suggests that the great filter, the barrier that stops civilizations from becoming interstellar, might be the atom itself. Perhaps every civilization discovers this power, and perhaps every civilization uses it to commit suicide. Oppenheimer was right. We became death, but we were not the first. And it leaves us with one final, haunting question. When the ancient texts describe gods descending to the ruined earth, wearing shining skins that protected them from the poison wind, were they really describing divine beings, or were they simply remembering the survivors, the last scientists walking through the ashes of their own world in hazmat suits? This is 0 Point Law. We explore the history they don't want you to know. If you believe the truth is hidden in the ashes, subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments, do you believe Mohenjo-Daro was destroyed by nature or by a bomb? I'll see you in the next investigation.